Good morning, everyone. This summer, we have the pleasure of witnessing a relay of great testimonies presented by our own church members. From Carlos, kicking off his own faith journey as a transparent, John David, if I can still sing, as his musical protest in a time of disarray. Rick writes, God presides when earthly judges fail. Gerald Wall's unceasing prayer. Tim Christ, this I believe, and doing faith. Each shares insight from their own journey of faith, like a cloud of witnesses surrounding us and sustaining us. For the final leg of the relay, I'm inviting you to meditate with me upon the notion of justice. What's the right thing to do? Some time ago in February, I received a work email from the CEO, and she announced that the company has made a decision to revise our diversity, equity, and inclusion program or policy to align with the federal contractor requirements. The announcement was a response to the executive order President Trump signed as soon as he was inaugurated to end government DEI program. The executive order requires that employment practices of the federal government, including federal contractors, must be merit-based, excluding any consideration of DEI. My company is only one of a long list of US companies scaling back DEI initiatives because of political and legal pressures. Public institutions like Florida and Texas colleges had already banned DEI programs, and private schools like University of Pennsylvania and Columbia also scrubbed DEI language from their websites. In the private sectors, responses have ranged from quick rollback like Meta, Target, or Google, and to continue to support for DEI, including companies like Apple, Amazon, and Goldman Sachs. The history of federal government taking any action to address racial discrimination in the federal government can be traced back to 1941 during the FDR administration. These government actions continue to evolve and expand from civil rights movement, affirmative action, to later broader inclusion goals, including gender, disability, and LGBTQ+. The term DEI did not gain traction until 1990s and 2000s. The movement took another step forward in 2021 when President Biden issued an executive order to embed DEI into government missions and budgets. So what is it about DEI that makes half the population wants the president to enshrine it formally into law and government practices, while the other half can't wait to take it all down on the very first day their elected president was sworn into office? Either side of the DEI would invoke justice to support their call to action. It seems that the very notion of justice is subject to debate. At the center of the debate is whether meritocracy or DEI is a better representation of justice. Meritocracy is often the most widely accepted principle for fairness because performance is transparent and easy to measure. When the president says he wants to hire the best, who can argue with that? After all, the most common complaint on hiring and promotion practices in the workplace is not merit-based or based on favoritism. In my growing up, passing the college entrance exam is the only way to go to college. It was a system designed specifically based on merit. And kids from poor families without any social connections, they were able to go to the best colleges and later achieve social mobility through their careers. But here's a precondition for meritocracy. That is, if everyone has fair access to the game, then winners deserve their winning. In reality, of course, we fall far short. In the dark history of America, including today, many minority groups, especially the Black, were intentionally excluded from access to quality education, employment opportunity, affordable housing, and so on. But meritocracy is also often being used to justify taking the lion's share of the reward as they are winning. This is most evident in the entertainment industry, professional sports, and in corporate America. The rise of DEI is meant to address specifically for the fair access issue, and quotas and aspirational goals are two most widely used metrics to measure success of the program. Well, but what they measure actually is the outcome, not the equal opportunity. So while DEI was gaining momentum in public policy over the past 20, 30 years, the backlash from white male fallouts is intensifying the social and cultural divide. Mounting legal cases of reverse discrimination, true or false, success or not, are deepening the political, social, and cultural divide in our country. Alasdair MacIntyre is one of the most influential moral philosophers in the 20th century. Actually, who just died 3 months ago in South Bend, Indiana. He called the dilemma we're in right now the result of the failed Enlightenment project. Seeing the religious brutality in the aftermath of Reformation, the Enlightenment thinkers try to provide rational, secular justifications for morality and let everyone decide on their own what makes sense. The result is fragmented, incoherent moral landscape. In an article commemorating MacIntyre, David Brooks wrote, "We're now left with no shared morality to settle arguments except through coercion and manipulation." In our democracy today, coercion, because even though I can convince you in argument, I can use majority power or authority to force you to comply, as many did in the great DEI rollback. The situation has greatly exacerbated since year 2000. If we look at how frequently our election results in party leadership change in the Senate, the House, or the White House. For every 20 years since 1960, the frequency of party change has increased from 3 times to 4 times, then jumped to 11 times since year 2000 until now. Almost every 2 years, there is a change in party leadership, and people are unhappy regardless of which party is in power. And manipulation often comes hand in hand with coercion. The evangelicals were once in slumber, fully content with seeking personal salvation and leaving social justice to the progressives. Through political manipulation, they're now become woke, except that their woke is not the same as ours. So what does our prophet Micah have to say about this? We're all too familiar with Micah chapter 6, verse 8, which says, "What does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness?" If we take out the scorecard and do a self-assessment, I imagine we can all easily make a long list of things we have done for justice and mercy. And I cannot be prouder than that. But Micah also mentions a third requirement, which is often conveniently forgotten, that is to walk humbly with our God. What can we put in this third bucket on our scorecard? I don't know about your list, but I'm sure this congregation will not put pledges or church attendance on the bucket. Because we know too well that walk humbly with God is a state of heart. Without walking humbly with God, do justice and love mercy can become self-serving, to win praises or to gain influence. When there are competing visions of justice, might always make right. So what kind of state of heart is walking humbly with God? So most of all, it helps us recognize our propensity for self-righteousness, biases, and moral pride, especially in the pursuit of social justice. Our self-righteousness is often based on partial truth. Even if we have the full truth, we may not have the wisdom to know the perfect solution that is just and merciful for all actors involved. Every time I pray the Lord's Prayer, I try to be mindful that I do not pray, "My kingdom come, my will be done," although I'm often guilty of that. But humility is more than a state of heart. Genuine humility changes how we relate to others. To guard ourselves from self-righteousness, we must reach out to people whose conviction challenges our own. Think about Jesus' first community of followers. Tax collectors are perhaps the most hated people in the Jewish community. And no one hates the tax collector more than the zealots. They're like the religious fanatics, like the Al-Qaeda or the Ku Klux Klan. But Jesus' first communities include both Simon the Zealot and Matthew, the former tax collector. Hate is a strong word. Perhaps I would ask, who irritates you most today? In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "But I say to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you." We must learn how to relate to our enemies if we want to build true communities, not enclaves. But how? Well, if you haven't read our summer reading, Just Action, I would encourage you to pick up a copy today. Chapter 1 includes a lot of beautiful stories of how to reach to the unlikely and the opposite, like the Chicago Map twins, if you have read it. It's quite a remarkable, inspirational story. Social justice is necessary to correct systemic injustice in our society. If that's done right, and this is not a small if, it's a very complicated issue. But love will heal our broken society. Finally, a few words about religion and morality. In ancient societies, to worship a particular god was to follow a particular moral order. In the culture I grew up, the coexistence of many gods is the natural state of religious affairs. People go to different temples for different needs. You want protection? Go to the Guan Temple. Worry about school exams? Go to Confucius Temple. No children? The Guanyin goddess will open up your womb. Insofar as these desires and needs do not conflict with each other, all gods can coexist peacefully. Micah was confronted with the religious pluralism in his days. He grieved how his people turning away from Yahweh, following other gods. Their prophets can tell fortune for a price. The rich can offer a sacrifice to atone for their guilt for seizing the inheritance of their neighbors. A fulsome gift for the judge is nothing but business as usual to turn a case in one's favor. Seeing how the spiritual failure of his people had corrupted the culture with beyond repair, he prophesied the fall of both kingdoms of Judah and Israel. I had been pondering about monotheism for a long time until I realized it's not about religious bigotry, forgetting the religious labels. It's about the incompatibility of conflicting moral values. A God of justice and a God of favoritism cannot be both right. How do you pledge allegiance both to a God who says humans are created in my image and are endowed with the equal dignity, and a God who says humans are born into different social hierarchies, including slavery, and shall remain so? If we believe in universal justice, how can we follow Jesus while devoting to the teaching of greed is good and a great motivator for prosperity and success in our capitalistic society today? Religion is man-made for human needs, but the divine truth fills the earth. Where that truth is revealed is where God is. It's the inclusiveness of God. I think the Apostle John, at his old age, finally gets it. He finally breaks free from his own Jewish bubble when he writes, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it." In Micah chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, he saw a vision when the mountain of the Lord will be raised above all hills. People from many nations will come and say, "Let's go up to the mountain of the Lord. He will teach us his ways so that we may walk in his paths." In our fragmented moral pluralism today, Micah reminds us that we must walk humbly with our God to keep from our moral superiority and self-righteousness. And Jesus said, "You must love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Then you will inherit the kingdom." As we continue to draw the circle wider, there is no detour around religious and moral pluralism. Our enlightenment project must go on until the darkness can finally comprehend the light, and when we regain the shared morality of all peoples. So help us, God. Amen.
Will you